Hola mis amores, welcome to the Get Unstuck podcast, a show that teaches you how you can take control of your life so you can let go of the weight of disappointments and release the emotional baggage holding you hostage. I'm your host, Jarrad Pouncil. I got it from the Afro-Latina Get Unstuck coach, helping millennial women feeling stuck get out of their heads and overcome their paralysis by getting to know themselves. This is where you learn how to become the woman you want to be, so you can love yourself no matter what, confidently know exactly who you are, have full clarity on what you want, and fearlessly step into your purpose. In today's episode, I'm excited to share part 2 of the 2-part conversation with my husband, my bae, my biggest cheerleader, my biggest hater, Jarrad Pouncil. JP helps ambitious Black millennials kickstart their dream consulting business and ditch the 9-to-5 rat race so they can gain confidence and clarity, avoid rookie mistakes, develop laser focus, and get clients. During this conversation, we talk all things business. We talked about what it was like for us, both of us, to quit our 9-to-5s and launch successful coaching businesses, how JP not singing me happy birthday taught me to trust myself with myself, and why I almost shut down IamHealthyFit.com. You do not want to miss it. Let's get started. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
How are you? It's good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in so long.
It's been a couple of days.
It's been a couple of days. Wow. So we are currently in 2 different places. I am currently in Honduras visiting my parentals, and Mr. Pouncil is in St. Petersburg. Are you still there? You still there?
Holding down the fort.
Holding down the fort. How's that going for you? This is the first time we're going to be away from each other for a month. Are you excited?
We've done it. We've done it before. Excited? I'm just at this point kind of indifferent.
Oh my God. I'm indifferent.
Yeah. You don't get on my nerves as much, so I don't mind having you around.
Ooh. I don't get on your nerves. Let's start there. Let's talk about me getting on your nerves less. What has changed that is now in a place where I get on your nerves less?
I think you've officially hit that proverbial next level.
Ooh.
Yeah, you've trained your mindset. You realize all the things that you need to get done, and they were communicated to you in a way that I haven't been able to. Or, it may have been that you just weren't, necessarily ready for that message because you were going through your journey. But regardless, you're here now. And, I think when you were in your office, when you're doing your course, you really didn't have time to come out here. And every time you talk to somebody, you couldn't run out here and talk to me because you had a course to get done. And I was like, this is kind of what I envisioned when we said we were going to be working. You have your office, I have mine. We have our separate areas. We do our work. We pick the times where we're like, all right, put work down, come back together, kiss and hug, hang out for a little bit, then boom, back to our corners for the second half of the day. Yeah. So you've been doing that. So I'm really excited to see the focus increase. And that's really, really, really what it's really about is, you found what you wanted and you're about to go get it.
Look at you. Y'all gonna hear a lot of sound effects, like random sound effects in the middle of this, because JP and I make a lot of random sound effects.
Yeah, and I don't do podcasts, so this is just me talking to my wife.
Oh my goodness.
While she's overseas.
I have to share this disclaimer. JP does not do collaborations. He's not commenting on your podcast. He's not going to be a guest in your summit. Like, he's not going to do any of that stuff. He has agreed to talk to me as a catch-up conversation in our marriage. And I have taken the liberty to record it and release it when I please, with his consent.
For sure.
So let's talk about the business. So you talked a little bit about me building my course and all of that, but I kind of want to go back some and give people some context as to what's been going on. Because in the first part of our conversation, we talked a lot about my struggles with depression and your perspective in that journey and what that was like for you as my partner and as my husband. And I figured that in this episode, we can talk more about the business stuff, like what have we been doing after we quit our jobs and and moved to Florida so that folks can kind of get an idea what that part is like. I think we glorify the idea of entrepreneurship, but people don't have a real clear sense of what that's like. And when you have two people that at the both time are like, all right, we're just gonna step away from the 9 to 5 world and figure this out on our own, I thought it'd be a really great conversation for us to kind of share that perspective with the listeners of the podcast, as well as what our journey has been like, both from the business end of things and how we have mentally transitioned from where we were before to where we are now. Is that okay with you?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Do
So
you said that people that what do they do with business? Beautify,
they glorify the idea of
glorify.
entrepreneurship. And
Mhm.
I mean like the perceived idea of entrepreneurship. I don't mean the actual like work.
What is the perceived idea?
I think from my perspective, I find that a lot of people see the perceived idea as what people see on Instagram, like, oh, you get to be everywhere, or you get to like take vacations all the time, or you're always out and about, or you work for yourself, you make your own schedule. And some of these things are true, but that doesn't mean that that's true for everyone, and it manifests itself in the same way for everyone. And yes, we have a dog. So if you hear the dog in the background, this is the quality of service I'm getting today. When I'm in Honduras, this is what happens. Okay. So just be honest about it and let's ignore it. So, so yeah, so that's what I mean by that. Does that make sense for you? Like, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
When I when
You want to
I
comment on that?
yeah, let me comment on that. So when I look at what people think about entrepreneurship, I think a lot of times there's no way you can see all the work that's going on because so much is only on the surface. A lot of the work is hidden. It's being by yourself or with your team, huddled off somewhere, doing a lot of deep work, deep thinking, actually solving problems and figuring out how to do stuff versus posting on Instagram, posting on Twitter, having a nice website, things like that.
So you've always had this entrepreneur, I want to live life on my own terms, when I retire by 35. Like that's been your mindset for a while. I mean, for as long as I've known you. So when we decided to leave DC, which I don't know if we really touched on in the last episode as much, but we decided to leave DC in 2017. No, 2018 is when we were like, we're leaving. What did you, and we talked about some of the uncertainties around making money and things like that in the previous episode, so make sure you listen to that one if you want the download on that or whatever. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what was it like quitting and starting over?
So it's never starting over because any job, any business I've started before, I'm learning and I'm continuing to learn from everyone. So it wasn't really like, starting over, but it was a new part of the journey. And, I was ready for it. I was excited. Of course, you're going to have certain worries. Am I going to have enough money? How much money do I need? Did I save enough? Can I even do this? Is this the right path? Am I making the right decisions?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I was fairly confident based on my past experience, what I have done, working in my startup, raising money, working in consulting, and then also having a great teacher, great mentors, and following a process that was laid out. I knew that, eventually, regardless of what it ended up being, which I had no idea my business would be helping Black millennials. When I left our full-time job, I had faith, I guess you can call it, or I just kind of knew what to do and knew I had to put in the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've always admired about you is that you have mentors. Yes, you. Oh my
Ooh.
God. Don't be that person, please. Thanks. One of the things I've always admired about you is that you have all these mentors, but you don't look for your mentors to tell you what to do. You look for your mentors to see other options on that you can use to potentially take action. And that to me is a manifestation of how close you are with your intuition, how close you are to that guy within yourself that tells you move left, move right, don't do that, don't do this. Tell me a little bit about how did you build that muscle, or how did you build that feeling? Like, what is
It's
that like?
natural. I remember just being in the pews at church and the pastor would say something. I'd be like, I got a question.
He's
that
raising his
don't
hand.
that don't go with what you just said. So how does both of those
Mhm.
work? So just from an early age, I've always just had this kind of, question questioning thing about me where
Mhm.
whenever someone would make a statement or say something I thought was kind of, I don't want to say crazy, but I was like, that doesn't sound quite right, you know. And I've just going kind of always had the gift of seeing multiple options
Mhm.
once a situation is given. You know, what are the all the possible solutions as opposed to kind of looking at just one. And you know, I've always even when I was younger, never really considered myself like liberal. I was always like I said a moderate because you know there were I thought you know both sides had great ideas.
Mhm.
It was just depending on which side you were on that you were you know more so attached to one idea you know versus the other. So it's kind of been like that for me. And I've always been willing to quit things too. You know, if I thought something was incorrect, or if I tried something and if I tried a business or if I tried a sport and I was like, you know, this probably isn't the best place for me to put my time and effort. I could be a
Mhm.
lot better and, you know, get exponential returns if I go do this over here. You know, I was willing to, you know, quit. And, you know, a lot of times people talk bad to kids and tell them, oh, don't quit. You got to finish the season, you know, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. When it's like, you know, you got to really have the courage to quit things because the people who actually go out and try things, they can't keep doing everything. So at one point in time, you got to decide, well, what you're going to quit and what you're going to really, you know, focus on.
Mhm. I
So,
really appreciate you sharing that because I think a lot of people have heard the "don't be a quitter" conversation. You
oh
know,
man, be a big quitter.
don't do something unless you're going to give yourself fully to it. I think the other part that people don't tell you is if you figure out that you hate that thing and that this is not the thing for you, you should walk away from that thing instead of continue to invest your time in something that it's not pouring into you or feeding your soul. And I think that's the part that some people find themselves getting stuck in because they know that they're in a situation that's no longer feeding them and they don't want to quit on that situation. So they sacrifice themselves at the expense of staying in that particular situation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, all right, all right. So we moved, we start you come in, this is your mindset at, this is where your head is at when we getting in this game at this point.
Which game? The marriage game, the business game?
This is the business game. I think, and even the marriage game, this is where your head is at, period. So,
Yeah,
and how you do one thing is how you do
how you do
everything. So,
everything.
if this is how it is for the business game, then it's also for the marriage game. And then we get into it. And from my perspective at this point, I'm like, okay, this is cool, but I'm not necessarily like something's necessarily driving me the same way that is driving you. Like I like what I'm doing and I enjoy it. But at this point, I hadn't really seen the type of results that I wanted to see from I'm Healthy Fit. But at the same time, in true human fashion, I hadn't put in the type of work required to receive that result that I wanted. So I was tired. I had been doing I'm Healthy Fit for about 4 years. I mean, much longer than that, like actually close to 9 years, because before I had a website, I was already doing the work with people and friends and family. So I was a little exhausted. And he's coming with fresh energy. And I'm like, I'm a little tired, but this is a new place. It's a warm city. We're excited to be by the beach. So we're going to try this thing out. And
I didn't know you felt kind of burnt out when we came down here.
I didn't know I felt burnt out either. Burnt out either. I think I realized much later that I was burnt out when I didn't have the energy to do the things that I knew would help me get the results that I wanted. I think that's when I realized like I'm tired. And I
Hmm.
think we had a conversation and you were like, well, why can't you get yourself to do blah, 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 blah? And I was like, I listen, you come here with a little fresh energy is great, but I've been at this for a little bit. And even if I've been going in the wrong direction, I've been going hard, going at the wrong direction. And let's not call it wrong or right direction, right? But in the direction that wasn't getting me the results that I wanted. Let's use that
Hmm.
language instead, because I don't think there's right direction or wrong direction. It's just directions with different outcomes. And even that, me being able to verbalize that, right? It's like major progress from where I was before.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I wasn't the type of person that saw different options. Like and I talked to you about this when I plan my days, how I realized that I had to start building in time for things that might not go down the way I write them down.
Right.
And someone might be listening to this podcast and thinking, oh my God, Nori, like, why wouldn't you do that? Well, because it hadn't occurred to me that there wasn't a chance or several chances that my schedule wasn't going to go according to plan. So yeah, I was surprised when things didn't work out the way I wanted them to work out. But I started realizing that I wasn't the only person that did that. Like a lot of people just focus on what they want to happen in the expectations of what they want to happen. And then they don't really think about the reality that that thing might not happen and how real that is. And I think that was something that I learned from being your partner and from just going in this journey of figuring out what do we want to do. So that's kind of where my head was at when we got into this. Although I wasn't clear on the fact that that's where my head was at, I would learn that. I will go on to learn that later. But now I know that that's where my head was at. So the first 7 months we were in Florida, we didn't have any money coming in. We were living off of our retirement. And I think we talked about this a little bit in the first part of the conversation we had. And for me, I felt like I remember having a conversation with you and you saying, you don't have to worry about making money. Like, we're fine right now. Just figure out what is it that you really want to do. If you're going to take the time to figure this out, just take that time to figure it out. And I was like, this just feels really weird.
You've been programmed that, you know, you got to be doing something. You can't
All
just
the
take the
time.
time to really figure stuff out, because we've been, as millennials, kind of programmed to be efficient little machines that
Mhm.
are built to go out to companies and improve them and do great things. No one
Mhm.
said, hey, take a second to actually figure out what it is that makes you happy.
You weren't a little tiny itsy bitsy anxious about that? Like, I was.
Yeah, I mean, I still think about it today. I always think about it, but you know, I really just, whenever it comes up, I just take it. And I'm like, all right, I see you, but all right, I'm gonna throw you back over there because you're not gonna do me any good.
And see, that's the part about you that I subconsciously I've always enjoyed about you because he balances us out because we both can be panicked. You know what I mean? So it's good to have one person. One person is going to level the playing field and be like, let's just relax, everyone, please. And let's take a second to look and evaluate the situation. And I haven't always been that person. You know, I tend to be very impulsive sometimes. I lead with my heart, although I'm not listening to my intuition all the time. So it's a very interesting world I navigate, but I'm getting much better at figuring out what I want to do and not looking for like not necessarily looking for direction. I think for a long time I've been trained to look for direction, which makes sense because when you think about children from the moment they're born, they're be given direction. So people you can't touch
Hmm.
nothing unless your parents say so, whatever. So like that makes sense. But it's programmed really, really good. And I struggle with that. I remember the first week I didn't have to be somewhere for work. I was going through it. I was like, what am I supposed to
Really,
do? He
really.
says to figure it out, but I'm like, how am I going to do that? Like, I've journaled, I've meditated, I'm just sitting around now twiddling my thumbs and bills need to be paid. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, but that's the answer. You need to sit around and twiddle your thumbs, do some reading, go do some learning about yourself. But you know, that's the answer. And throughout this whole process, you know, working or not working with you, which we'll talk about, I've learned a lot about, you know, how I'm not aware of a lot of the things that you were going through, and I've become more sensitive and more open to those, which has really helped me when I'm talking to other Black millennials, because now I'm more aware to see a lot of the struggles that they're going through, because you know, to be completely honest, I see those things, but you know, they're just kind of like a blip, and then I push them away. So
Mhm.
for me, a lot of times I just kind of blaze right past them, and you know, I would have the mindset that, oh, everybody's like this. No, everybody's just put on the gas and trying to make it happen. And you know, people in theory are, but you know, it's easy to get caught up in those things, those struggles, and those roadblocks. So you know, that's really helped me as well with my business.
Mhm. And it has helped me to see your process and to learn to respect your process because I realized I didn't respect your process. That was something else that,
We did talk. We talked about that because you didn't. I told you didn't respect my time.
yeah, you say I didn't respect your time, which is in my world, I saw it as why can't you do this for me real quick?
Real quick.
That's my favorite. Can you do this real quick, please? It's only gonna take you like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
My perceived 5 minutes, right? Versus your actual 5 minutes or
Right.
actual 30 minutes, whatever listen take you. And you might have had already something planned for that, right? But in it, I just felt like why can't he do what I tell him to do real quick? Like it's not gonna take him that long. And then I found myself kind of retaliating when he would be the other side, you know, like when you would be asking for something and you had told me no, and I'd be like, no. Part of it's because of my rebelness,
Scandalous.
but also because I just felt like you end with me, like, come on, bro. And I think those are the behaviors that I had to like let go of and fully release so that I can create space for the woman that I've become and I continue to become in the future. So you mentioned that we don't work together in the traditional sense, right? I mean, we do work together, y'all, but we don't work together in the traditional sense. You see him here on the, well, you don't see him, but you hear him here on the podcast. So he is, once again, we're not working together. It's not a collaboration. This is just a conversation with his wife. But let's talk about that. Like how did we get to the place where we figure out that working in the traditional sense together wasn't going to work for us? Like, why weren't you ready to work with me?
Well, we did. We did. We started out working together. So
Yeah.
all of my ventures in the past have always been with a team, or they've always been with another company. So other than like high school and doing like hustles to make money, I've never really done anything solo. And, working with you, I was still working, or I still have the app company. So working with those guys, and, through the work with the startup, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do. I felt like that if we would have did them, we would have had success. And other guys weren't willing to put in that effort. And working with you, we were doing the podcast when we recorded a whole season. We had an event, and we did a couple other things. But I think for us, reading the Four Tendencies really helped me to understand that I was a questioner and that you were a rebel. And we're working on. I think I wanted to help you, or I did help you with, like, we did a brainstorming session. So we had all these stickies up on the wall, and I'm like, all right, well, let's just put it in like the Trello so we don't have to worry about it on the wall. And because I'm like, all right, I'm doing this work. This was beneficial for me too, because I'm going to use some of this work. So when you said, all right, I'm going to put them on the Trello. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, if you agree to do that, then fine, we can do it. We can do it your way. I even brought home the stickies, on my way home that day. So we had our session and we had all the stickies up. And so I'm like, all right, well, Babe's going to put these in the Trello board so we can have them. And, a day goes by and they're still up.
She had the intentions of putting them on the Trello board.
A couple more days went by and they were still up. Couple more days. And now they're falling off the thing. So I'm like, Babe, are you going to kind of put these in there? And, you being, as we've learned, you don't like being told what to do. And my statement was probably not an ask. It was probably more like, I was like, you agreed to do this. Why haven't you done it yet? So, coming to understand that, and from working on the podcast, that we both like having creative direction, as we say, and for different reasons. You like having creative direction because you want to do what you want to do, and you don't really like following other people's directions. And it's really good for you to have that, because that's one of your talents, and having that creativity gives you room to be who you are. And then my perspective is, I pretty much think I'm right about most things. And so unless I think otherwise, I'm probably going to go with what I think is right. And when I've worked with other people in the past to try to do things that I thought were right, and they didn't do them, well, they typically didn't turn out in the fashion that we envisioned. And I feel like that if we would have just followed the plan, follow what other people had done, we would have been more successful. So although we both have our different working styles, when we decided to kind of do our own things, you actually told me thank you, because you kind of felt free. You kind of felt like you had to, like you had to work with me because we were a couple and all these other stereotypical things. And for me, it was really liberating, because I could actually figure out what it is I wanted to do on my own. And this was the first time I was going to have full control over everything I was doing.
It's not so much that I felt like I could do things on my own, that we had to do things together because we were a couple. It was because I felt like we could do great work together. Like, and I also had this perception that, not that you wanted creative control, but that you wanted control. So I felt like you wanted control of the direction and I wanted creative control. And you can't have creative, you can't split that up. Like, both people have to be able to do it, or one person has to be able to do the whole thing. And I just felt like our styles, and even at that time, our communication styles, we were not as, I think, well-versed communicators as we are now to each other. Although we have been together for a long time, quote unquote, long time, over 5 years, I still felt like looking back now, and as I reflect on that time, we were not really good. We were not communicating as efficiently as we could communicate with one another. And that manifested in how our work got done. And that manifested on how, I wasn't able to separate the wife from the partner, the business partner. And there were things that I felt like you need to be more aware that you're talking to your wife. And you were like, I'm talking to my business partner. And that did not really work well for us at the time. So it resulted in both of us going our separate ways, but it's still going our same way, in a way. So it was really like for the health of our relationship and for the health of ourselves and the businesses eventually that we took that approach, at
Yeah,
least
and
from my perspective.
I was thinking about it for maybe a week or so before I actually, kind of made the decision because, that was, yeah, I wanted to work with you too. So
I know I want to
I
work with you
wanted to make it
too.
work, but
It is what it is
you got to make the best decisions for the team.
for the team. And
Which
go ahead.
I'm gonna say, I don't think it turned out bad so
Actually, I
far.
don't think it turned out bad either. And I think this is, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think people feel like, oh, when spouses don't work together, it's because, there's all these issues there. But I think sometimes you make these tough decisions to maintain the health and to be able to flourish and grow. And it is not a manifestation of what's wrong, quote unquote, but it's actually a manifestation of what you're learning and what you're seeing. It doesn't mean that we're never going to work together. I think now we work together more than we worked together then and much more efficiently than we were working together then too,
Mm-hmm. Most
because
definitely.
we have an understanding of our strengths better. And I think I've surrendered to my strengths much, much more now. So I've embodied them and I'm taking them on and not running away from them. And that has allowed me to communicate better with you and to be a better supporter of you in your work. Do you
Yes.
agree with that?
Surrender. Yes. Surrendering is important. We've talked about that recently, particularly around being willing to accept guidance and wherever it's coming from and kind of just saying, all right, take the wheel and show me where to go. So yeah, most definitely would agree with that.
And I see why from your perspective it's like if this person is telling this the right way to do it, why would you go and do it the wrong way? Or do it a different way that you don't know if it's the right way or the way that's gonna work for you. I see why that's a challenge for you because that's what you have seen, not everybody has had that experience. So when I think about all the things that I've seen, I don't know if I'm like getting guidance is the helpful thing. Or at least those experiences that permeate for me as quote unquote painful or negative experiences where guidance was involved, like my perception has not been that this has been like, the way it should have gone down for me.
Oh
So
no,
I
there was
think
plenty of bad advice along the way. Don't get me wrong. I was exposed to a lot of activities that I'm like, why? Even then I'm like, why are you doing that? You say these are your goals. Even as a child, it was like, all right, well, you want to get this type of job. I don't think that's going to lead to, that type of outcome, or whether it was, drugs people were using at the time, things like that, so I don't know. I just always had a way to kind of be like, I know what's for me, and I think it's more so I knew what I wanted. At the
mm-hmm.
end of the day, I
Yeah.
mean, I was programmed from probably when I was just a couple of months that I'm going to college. I had this little hoodie when I was a toddler for University of Michigan, so that was
You
already kind of like programmed. So I already knew.
didn't even go there.
That's where. All right, I didn't even go, but that's where I want. That's where I'm going to end up. And if I want to do that, there are certain things I need to do along the way.
Mhm.
And I also like being the best, so it's a thing. I just like being the best. I like solving
Yes.
problems and showing that I am the best.
Mm-hmm. And you show up with everything you do with the same vigor and intensity and enthusiasm. Another word we have been talking about much recently. So let's talk a little about this other stuff that we said we were going to discuss since we're getting
All
pretty
right,
much
all right,
halfway through the conversation. I know you have other what do you call these things?
nice young ladies.
Yeah, whatever. Other things you need to be doing. Other engagements. That's the word I'm looking for. So 7 months in, at this point, we weren't making any money yet,
So
but
what month is this?
let's get to matter of fact, let's back up some. So we moved to Florida in April, and around June, again, we're still not making any money yet, but around June, JP brings in a course, right? Is that when you got the
I
course?
I actually got the course. So I knew about the course before we left. So I was like, all right, here's the exact plan I'm going to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was actually all this kind of came from when you originally brought in a course to us
Yeah.
about starting your blog. And I was like, oh, people do courses like that. And so once my eyes were open that this was an option, I'm like, all right, well, what are all the options? So, I was just kind of out looking for, what is it going to be? What plan am I going to follow when I quit my job that's going to get me to my goal? So I bought a couple different courses and found Sam through another course that I bought. So totally, was worth all going through all the other ones just to find and ended up where we were at with the consulting accelerator.
Mm-hmm. So we purchased, but we at this point really just means him.
Me, yeah. So I think when we moved down here and after I got everything kind of unpacked and was settled in, I got it, and I don't want to say that was probably within, was that, yeah, May? So May, yeah.
Mm-hmm. May
Within
you
May.
started working on it, and the course is Consultant Accelerator from Sam Ovens, and I'm gonna drop a link for him on the show notes because this course has been really, really amazing for us. Like, yeah, it's been really great. So yeah, I will get the link. Like, not paying me for this. It's just y'all need to check this
Yeah,
out.
you better get that referral, girl.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm gonna drop the link for y'all so we can get to a fair point. So you get the course, and it's it was a 6 weeks, 7 weeks program.
It's like actually like I think Accelerator like 8 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm into like 6 weeks, 6. So we got to Accelerator, and JP was trying to get me. Yeah, I remember you were starting it when we were in DC, and you were like, "Oh, you want to watch this with me?" And I was like, "I'm good."
yeah. And that was the same attitude you had once we got here too. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play it, and she's gonna hear it. So I'm like, this shit is amazing. There's no way she's not gonna want to do this. So I'm just gonna play it. I know she's always playing hard to get. So let me just play it on the big screen. And sure enough, here she comes sitting down. What are you talking about?
Well, I kept sitting down because he was just watching this course all the time, and I wanted to spend time with him, and he was like, "Well, you want to spend time with me, then you just got to sit here and hang out with me." And I was like, "Whatever, this is what we're going to do, I guess." So he starts taking the course, or he's taking the course, or whatever, and
What were you doing at that time?
At that time, I think I was figuring out what I was going to do. Oh, I was working on the podcast. At this time, I was working on season 1 of the podcast. And at the time when I was working on the podcast, I was focusing on that. And then I was trying to figure out how I'm Healthy Fit was going to make it in the next iteration of things and what it was going to look like now that I had time to devote to the project and to really turn it into my business. So I was doing a lot of that, a lot of soul searching for myself, but also soul searching for the brand as a result of the soul searching I was doing for myself. So he starts watching the videos, and I am hanging out there because I need human contact, and that's the way I could get it. And eventually in June, I was like, all right, I'm going to check this out. So it took me about 4 weeks. It took me more than that, but I would say 4 weeks of actively being in the presence of the video for me to be like, all right, I'm going to check this out. And then 4 weeks in, I started doing the program. And I got so into it because that's one thing about me is like, once I get into something, it's borderline obsessive. Like
she's going hardcore in the paint, hard body, dunking on everybody.
Go hard.
Forget about the women, kids, the children.
Go hard or go home. Let me tell you something.
No showers, no nothing. I'm going hard.
Wow, babe. Really? No showers, babe? I was definitely showering. I was showering and brushing my teeth and sleeping.
I make sure you do that. I won't let you forget.
I go extra hard on whatever I'm working on because I'm a student of life. It's one of the things that I like. I like learning. And I'm borderline obsessive when it comes to things. I accept that about myself, and I'm working on it. So I start working on this course. And I decide to get rid of I'm Healthy Fit altogether. Remember when I was like, I'm going to stop the podcast, and I said, I'm going to finish season 1 of the podcast, and then the podcast is not going to come back. And then I'm going to, and here we are, right? Then I'm going to shut down I'mHealthyFit.com, and I'm going to be in a whole new company that I want to do, because what I thought I wanted to do was work with wellness brands and help them work with micro influencers of color. I was like, this sounds like exactly what I want to do. Like, I love marketing, or I enjoy marketing a lot, and I want to amplify the voices of women of color, micro influencers. This sounds like the perfect thing for me. So everything,
micro influencers.
So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then what happened? I launched something called Wellness in Color, something that many of you have never really heard about. And I went to New York City for a conference and I pitched this project out to a few brands and they were like loving it. They thought it was a great idea. And then I started actually, by now it was August. You're still going through the course, you're still doing
Yeah,
your
I'm
thing.
still going through the course. I don't know. I think I was still working with agile trainers and consultants. So probably about that time, I had found a case study client
Mm-hmm.
and was working with her. I had already been through a couple iterations of going out, trying to talk to people. The first iteration I went out, no one signed up for what I had to offer. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing board. Got a lot of good information, talked to a lot of agile coaches and trainers. And,
Mm-hmm.
I was, I could have did more market research, but I really just wanted to get out there and see what I could do. So, I just did a lot of sales calls. So I didn't really do a whole lot of market research. I talked to, one or two agile trainers. I had a really close relationship with one agile trainer, and he was making, almost $1 million a year doing what he was doing. So that was a big help really to get me started and figure out what I wanted to do. But it was still kind of up to me to go out there and do the work. So after, I want to say 2 iterations, I was almost figuring out, hey, I didn't want to do anything with agile coaches and trainers, and was probably about a month away from switching to helping Black millennials.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, like we were taking time off from each other too. I took a trip to New York and I went to New York for 2 weeks.
Always
And
leaving me.
whatever. I went to New York for 2 weeks and I did this like Northeast tour where I was like in New York City. I went to DC for a conference and I even went to Philly. I think I went to Philly too. And I was trying to figure out like at the time I'd had time to spend with myself. And that was a big part of this process. The fact that I was figuring out the business, but at the same time, I was figuring me out. And by figuring me out, I was able to figure out more and more about the business. So Wellness in Color comes up. I have a website for it and everything. Like I'm ready to, start doing this work. I pitched to a few brands and one brand is like, yeah, let's work together on this project. And I'm like, okay. And I told JP, I remember telling JP, like, I don't know if this is it. I think I came back from New York and I was like, I don't know if this is the thing for me. And he was like, okay, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I feel like in the past, I've walked away before fully giving myself into a project because even though I'm obsessive, there's still the mindset that I had before was such that I wouldn't do the work required to get the results I wanted. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go through the course from Sam and I'm going to give this a solid try. And I'm going to work with these brands and test this concept and see if it works before I do something different. And I think that really began the shift in mindset for me. The idea that I was going to do something that I knew I didn't really necessarily love yet, but I wanted to learn to love and to like really give it a solid try. And when I did that, I realized I didn't really like it that much. I don't like being in the middle of it. I didn't like that there was so
Yeah.
much I couldn't
It was
control.
two-sided markets. It's a really difficult thing to get started. You got to
Mm-hmm.
have the buyers and the sellers, and you're in the middle, and you get blamed for everything that goes wrong. So if you can scale it, it's great, but it's not. Starting out, you got to focus on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
so,
I'm really grateful for the brands that supported me in that process and work with me and the influencers that were working with me too. They taught me so much. And it's
mhm.
because of that I was able to realize that wasn't the route for me. And I'm forever grateful to everyone that was involved with our project that helped me see that wasn't the direction for me. And and I mentioned a little bit about the mindset shift that had to happen. And during the time with Sam, I know I personally gone through a lot of different changes with my mindset and growth. What are some of the things that you feel or you've noticed that you had to really shift with your mindset in order to get to that place, like as we transition from being full-time employees to being full-time entrepreneurs?
I think around things around the house that, that I was programmed to think that that would be your job, or just having an expectation of, all right, 50-50, this is how things are
Mhm.
going to be split. And, for the longest, I would get upset with you because we would agree to do the dishes or whatever we've agreed to.
I don't like
And
doing dishes.
right, right.
I've said it. I've been very open about my dislike of doing dishes in my life.
Right. And so, and I had always figured, even once again, when I was younger, of this whole make $1 million, I'm not trying to do dishes either. Somebody's going to pay for it. But I kind of felt until then, we need to kind of split it up. And so, I guess one of the things that, from having a started expanding my mindset is, oh, why don't we just pay for it now? Like, what's holding you now? We would make jokes about, oh, our parents would be like, oh, you got somebody coming to clean your house. It's like, yeah, it's actually really great for my marriage because nobody in the house really wants to do this. And to be honest, who really wants to do dishes anyway?
And for us, it was that important that it was worth every penny we paid to have someone coming in to clean our house, even when we're not making any money.
Right. And that's really about mindset too, because, if you have things around your house, if it's cluttered, if things aren't being taken care of, well, what you see is what you're going to think about, and that's going to permeate you as well in your brain. So, if your space is junky and if you have clutter everywhere, well, it's very likely that your mind is going to be in that same state.
And then if you are always thinking about the fact that has to get done too,
right?
That's something else that's taking up space in your mindset.
Right. She ain't do them dishes again.
He was the one thinking about them dishes. Them dishes were not keeping me up at night. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
They weren't.
They weren't. So at this point, we decided to get a cleaning team. Oh yeah, this is the one we got our first. I think.
But we decided to do that once we moved. We were like, we're doing that.
Yeah. So by now we were having people that were coming to clean the house, and that free up the space for us to think. So all that time that you thought I had before, I had way more of it because I wasn't cleaning my own house either. And JP does the laundry, so I wasn't doing the laundry either.
What do you bring to the table?
Yo, I was like, you probably listen to this and be like, Nori, what do you do? What is it that you bring to the table as a wife? A lot. So
comic relief.
So much value that I don't have to do the dishes and I don't have to clean my house and do my laundry. That's how much value I bring to my house. It's not because I'm not valuable. It's because I'm very valuable. Okay, let me just say that. I don't know if my husband's going to agree with that or not, but that's the story.
I believe you're very, very valuable, but I'm also not here to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. So
because it don't work.
They don't. And honestly, I don't want to do it either. And I only do the laundry because, I haven't found a service to come pick it up yet.
Yet. I'm learning that now is probably in the way. So I start working with this brand and I realized I don't want to do this. Like, this is not a thing for me. And I told JP, I was like, I'm going to quit this. And I did mention this. You convinced me not to shut down I'mHealthyFit.com because I was going to. In my process to, again, go from 0 to 100, I was like, well, we got to focus. So focus means cutting everything else that keeps us distracted. And I'm Healthy Fit was one of my biggest distractions per my perspective. And I was ready to shut it down. And you convinced me not to do that. You were like, no, just keep it. Even if it's for the traffic, just redirect it to your new site. It's just fine. And I was like, okay, fine. I won't shut it down yet. I hadn't fully committed to not shutting it down fully, but I said, I'm going to hold off on this. And at this point, you had gone through your reiterations of your own business and what you wanted to do. And let's get to September. Yeah, let's talk about September. September was a major turning point for me too.
What happened in September on your birthday?
You didn't sing me happy birthday.
Oh yeah, I didn't sing me happy birthday.
So I turned 31 last year. And birthdays are a big deal for me. I love birthdays. I think birthdays are really amazing. Everybody should celebrate on their birthdays. Maybe because that was the one day people really celebrated me when I was growing up. So I always had this really love for birthdays. No matter how people treated me throughout the year, during my birthday, it was always a really fun time. So I love birthdays. And I felt like being in Florida with just him, he needed to make sure I had a really popping birthday. And he didn't even see me happy birthday. And I was not happy.
I did not.
Mad. I was so mad at him.
He was really mad.
I was livid. Why didn't you sing me happy birthday? Tell the people. I'm moved on by now, by the way, guys, in case you're wondering. I have let go of that. It was a big process for me, but I think it's a learning lesson for all of us.
So I had told you, singing happy birthday, didn't know that was a requirement that needed to happen every birthday. But I had told you happy birthday. We stayed up that night before past midnight, and I had told you happy birthday. So, from our perspective, we haven't done gifts, and it's kind of, we don't necessarily do that. So, after saying happy birthday, not sure what else you were expecting, but apparently you were expecting a
cake.
Little bit more.
A cake would have been nice. A made up card with little papers or something would have been cute.
Mm-hmm. It's that programming. Society has done it to you.
Continue, please.
And so it got to it was near the end of the day, and I think you just couldn't take it anymore. And or was it that day? Was that same day?
Yeah, it might have been that same day actually. Oh,
Yeah,
I think
I think it was that evening.
either that day or the next day. Because
Yeah,
I think I might have let. No, it had to be that day. I don't think I would have
yeah.
gone to bed with that in my head.
And that you felt like that. So when you brought it up, I was like, why do you expect me to to do that? And we talked about it, and you told me why, and it really came down to you're that's how you were raised on your birthdays. It's your special day. People are supposed to do and sing happy birthday to you along with other things. And me always from my perspective, I'm like, but that's tell you what we said we were going to do for your birthday. And so you were really upset, and you wanted me to apologize for not doing it, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And
Slightly.
I was like, nah, you need to sit with that pain and really figure out for yourself, like, why do you feel like that just because I didn't sing happy birthday to you? Like, is that really gonna change sour your whole birthday because one person didn't sing happy birthday to you?
And I think from my perspective, it wasn't just the fact that you didn't sing happy birthday to me. It's that you didn't make the day about me, about my
Okay.
birthday. Like you didn't get no cake. I think we went out to eat, but we just went out to eat, and like I was already out. So we were like, let's meet at this place to eat. And I was
Hmm.
like, all right, let's eat there. Like you didn't care it was my birthday. I'm probably apparently still working through this. You didn't care it was my birthday. And I was really upset about that because you had always cared about my birthday before, and I had always done something for your birthday.
I think,
So
yeah.
it
Okay.
wasn't a verbal like agreement, but it had never been different. This was the first time that it was different. And I was away from everyone. So I felt like I'm spending my birthday with someone that doesn't care about my birthday. And I was really mad because I was like, what the fuck? I don't even curse on my iPod, my podcast. But they were
Ooh.
being naughty. I was like,
Uh,
what's going on here? Like, it's my birthday. Like, come on. And he didn't apologize. He was like, sit with this pain. And it was really hurtful because imagine, you're in another state with your partner, you don't know no one there, and the one time that you feel like you're supposed to be celebrated, society says this is the time that you could be, trash every day of the year, but like this day, people supposed to
you can be.
be and and he wasn't doing that, and it really really struck a nerve with me. And I think it might have taken me a week to work through that. Actually, I don't know, was it
Oh,
like a week, at least at least a few
it was
days?
probably a couple days before. I think at least till the next day, that evening before we talked. Like we had the initial conversation, and then we revisited it again that evening. So pretty sure that energy was floating around for another couple of days
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was.
after that. Yeah. But
So you,
that just goes to, I mean, that's just that's my personality. I don't necessarily think, I do kind of think dates are arbitrary. If you want to pick a day and do some stuff, let's do it. Make sure everybody knows what the deal is so that we can all be on the same page. And for my birthdays, I'm usually the one like, all right, this is what I want to do for my birthday, and if I want it, I just go tell people, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where we're meeting at, this is what I want to do. I'll meet you there, and that's what we're doing for my birthday. You can bring a gift if you like. If not, I really just want to hang out and chill and kick it. Not
mm-hmm,
necessarily. It's just another day hanging with my homies.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You might be listening to this and thinking, Nori's right. He should have sung her happy birthday. Um, if you are, I appreciate your solidarity, but I've worked with some of. You
Ooh.
might be asking yourself, what was the lesson that I learned, and how do we get to a point of agreement after that eventually? And I think for me, after I sat with the pain that my husband didn't sing me happy birthday, and that was so loaded, y'all. Like, he's my husband. He's the only person I really know in St. Pete. All of my friends are texting me and telling me happy birthday. They're like doing their part. So I'm like, everybody's behaving according
Mhm.
to plan, except the dude I live with. So that just amplified the emotions even more because I don't know. Last year, my friends were all out wishing me happy birthday. Like, and it might have been because I was away or because I'm just that awesome. Who
Or
knows?
because you were turning 30.
31. I was turning 31. I had already turned 30.
Oh, I thought you meant when you turned 30. Like we had people over and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about last year when he did it
Last
for my
year.
birthday. And it just amplified those feelings a lot more. And then the previous birthday, he got me balloons. We had ice cream and cake, and it was like the best birthday ever. And then the next birthday, I don't even get a happy birthday song. So you can see how I was a little bit, confused by the change of events that was happening with Mr. Pouncil, right? But we will be right back after this brief message. Hola, mis amores. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Get Unstuck podcast. I love having these conversations because they help shed light on the issues many millennial women feeling stuck are struggling with on a daily basis as they look for ways to overcome their paralysis. Can you do me a favor? If you find this episode helpful, please leave me a review and tell me what connected with you about this conversation. It will help me bring you guests that you're going to love, and you may catch your thoughts during our fan love segment. Now back to the episode. The lesson that we learned from that, and I think I remember one of the things the JP says that gets on my nerves literally every single time he says it, because I know it's right, or I know it's like, it's a very powerful question that he asks is, why are you letting that to get so much power over you? And I really don't like that question when he brings it up, because he like this, it like disempower me. That's the word. It removes my power to be petty or childish about anything. And I'm like, ugh. So I didn't like it at first, but then after I sat down with that pain for days, well after me and him were quote unquote good, I was working through that. And I realized that, my birthday is not his responsibility. And one of the things I used to believe was that I had to do things with my husband all the time. Like, we did all these things together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's not even celebrating my birthday, and his responsibility is not to celebrate my birthday. That's my responsibility. And he doesn't have to be a part of my celebration. I can do my own thing. And that was really hard for me to come to terms with, because I felt for a long time, I felt like we had to do everything together. And as a result of that, I was empowered to even now be Honduras a whole month without him, because I'm moving into this direction of doing what I want to do and what's best for me, even if he's not a part of that process. So I did walk away from that understanding that my birthday is my responsibility. It's my birthday. I could do whatever I want to do with it. And I don't have to put that on other people. And that way I'm really clear on like what's going to happen on my birthday or what's not going to happen on my birthday, because I'm not setting that on somebody else. And this was a major turning point for me, because I'm really attached to birthdays. And this was like a big thing to like, just somebody uproots you of something that you're fully attached to with no warning or anything. And you have to figure out how to work through that and process that. And I had to like, in a way, I had to like grieve my birthday. I know it sounds kind of a little crazy as I'm saying it right now, but that's how attached I was to my birthday. And in that year, I felt like I had to grieve part of my birthday, because this was such a big moment for me. And my parents weren't in the country. Like, it was just a lot of things going on with me. And I just felt like he could have sang me happy birthday. And I think that would have meant so much to me because of everything we had going on. But I think in him not doing that, I realized that actually is something that I have to do for myself. So that was a big one. The happy birthday thing was big. And now this year, I don't really care what he does, because I'm already planning a solo trip for my birthday. So I don't know what he's going to do in his life.
Yeah, let me know where to show up.
I'm not telling you nothing. I'm out. I'm out dolo, bro. That's it.
And that was also during that whole conversation, I believe I said at some point that I didn't fully feel like I could be honest with you, because of, if I, take the example of the birthday, if there was something that didn't meet your expectation, or I felt like I was an unreasonable expectation, the response that I was going to get was going to be, you would just say, less than optimal for the conversations I want to had. And up until that point, I still kind of felt like there were maybe not a whole lot of things, but like there were a last few things that I kind of felt like you were kind of putting or pushing towards my direction. I kind of felt that was, more so things that you needed to kind of deal with on your own, which within the end was going to help us both, because I couldn't help you, realize some of the things. I can tell you these things, but as we know, we have to all go through our own journey before we kind of realize things. And most of the things that we learn and that are helpful and beneficial come from a roadblock, or come from being held back, or someone not reaching out and helping us. We have to figure out how to kind of claw up from the situation on our own. And that's how we learn. We learn how to get out that situation so that we don't repeat repeat that in the future. And then now we got that as a tool in our tool belt. And whenever it shows up again, it's easy. I'm slicing it up with my sword because I already know how to do this.
No one has swords in their tool belt, but
I do.
I understand.
I got everything. I got everything.
Understand what you mean.
Slice them up.
At the time, I just felt like that wasn't your role. I felt like your role was to love me and see me happy birthday. But then later I would realize that you were the only person that could do that.
Yeah.
If anybody else would have done that, it wouldn't have had the same effect. Because I would have been like,
who else in your circle would do that?
Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, people will forget to say happy birthday, but they will call me the next day and be like, oh, my bad. I forgot to tell you happy birthday, like happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. And then nobody else is my husband, the person that I live with. That's only you are that person. So by default, you hold that weight. So only you could have done that. And that's something that I would learn later too, that it was actually just your role to play, whether I liked it or not. And that's the thing about growth, is that we don't always like how it manifests. We don't appreciate it. And it's painful as hell. Like, that experience was really hurtful. And he wasn't, I'm saying he didn't sing happy birthday, but it wasn't just about the act of singing happy birthday. It was the representation of that to me, and the importance of making that day about me. Like, that really is what we're talking about here. And he manifested through that particular way. And I wasn't ready for that. And I personally didn't care for it either. But now as I look back to it less than a year later, I'm really grateful for that experience. Do I wish she could have manifested this way in a less annoying, painful way? Of course I do. But I'm grateful. I understand that that's how he had to manifest for me to learn that lesson. Sometimes the universe manifests things for us the only way that he knows that we can pick that up. And if it would have been another way, maybe I wouldn't have picked that up, So, and maybe I wouldn't be in Honduras right now with my family, because I would have been like, I can't leave my man for a month. But now I'm like, bye. So, it's definitely something there. Okay, so at this point, we've talked about the major lesson of of the happy birthday thing. And one thing I do want to say is, as you listen to this episode, like, think about the things that you are so attached to that hold that much power over you, that can take you out of character or put you into your dark zone for days. Like, I probably was working through that for a long time. And I'm probably not fully over it. As I'm talking about this, I can catch myself getting emotional about it, which means that I'm still working through that. Because I think at the time I also felt the element of rejection from you. And that's something that I struggle a lot with. I think everybody struggles with rejection, but I definitely struggle a lot with it. And I feel like that was something else also that I felt like I just felt rejected by my husband on my birthday. So I think that's really the weight of what that meant to me. And at the time, I didn't capture all this lesson stuff. Like, I'm talking about these lessons now, and I'm grateful for them, and I'm involved on it, and higher self me, and blah 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 blah. But in the moment, I just felt the pain of all these things I didn't understand. And sometimes that's how it happens to a lot of us. We just feel the pain of all the things we don't understand, and later we can start to unpack it and see why we felt that pain. But most of us rarely do that unpacking because we don't know how to do that, So that was the happy.
We don't want to look there.
We don't want to look there.
We've looked there and been like, nah, I'm good.
I spoke to one of my clients today, and she was like, I don't want to look at my truth. And that's real.
That's real.
That's real.
That's real.
I understand the challenge of seeing yourself where you are and not liking it, and thinking, if I don't see it, out of sight, out of mind. But reality doesn't change when you choose not to look at it. It just amplifies until you're ready to look at it. And then if you're not,
we live in a world where you can choose your own reality. So
absolutely. So let's continue going on the journey with the Pouncils.
All right.
For the year. So
September, October.
November. So October, I finished working with the brand I was working with, because I wanted to close them out and fully be done with my commitment to them. So I finished my work with them, and I realized I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. And I began, one of the assignments that Sam had us doing was to like email folks and get feedback from them on like how their perceived strengths and weaknesses of us. And I went back to the drawing board when I realized that wellness in color wasn't it. I went back to the drawing board to figure out, well, what is it? Is there something there that, I'm good at or whatever? And when I started reviewing those emails, there was a recurring theme around people feeling like they could rely on me to help them through their challenges emotionally, to help them be healthy mentally and spiritually and physically. There was this element around me being a source of health for people and them feeling like they could come to me for stuff that wasn't only physical but also is spiritual and emotional. So I began to delve into that. And as a result, I was like, well, maybe I want to get into the personal fulfillment thing. That was a word that I don't know how I got into my head, but I was like, maybe that's what I want to do, like help millennial women struggling with personal fulfillment. And I posted that on my stories on IG, and like 30 women, I think I said, if you're struggling with personal fulfillment, I would like to talk to you. And like 30 women hit me back and were like, I want to talk about this. I'm struggling with it. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I knew I was onto something. Like that was
Right.
the first inclination that I'm getting into. I'm peeling the layers of what I need to do. And I didn't do the thing about looking for a problem. I think I did. I think at that point I was like, what is the problem that I can help address? And I felt that if my close friends felt like I was a resource for them for spiritual and mental support as well as physical support, well, what does that look like for the women I want to serve? And how do I take all the information that I've had over the years and put it together into this pretty bow? And personal fulfillment was kind of where I started with that. And I began doing some more like my market research calls. And I had about 30 of those. They were supposed to be 20 minutes long, and each call was an hour long
Mm-hmm.
because I talk so much. And because people had a lot to say, and
Oh,
I
no
wanted
doubt.
to help them. I wanted to help them, and I wanted to help them think through these things. And sometimes I can't really help myself. And I'm working on that now. But that's where I was at in October. Where were you at in October?
So by then, I had said I was switching, or I had stopped working with the Agile consultants and trainers, and I really had taken some time. I remember probably taking a few weeks just to kind of clear my mind, really think about what it is that I enjoy doing, plus what things from my past that I wanted to incorporate into whatever I was doing moving forward. And I had always been what they like to call a high achiever, good grades, all that good stuff. And now I'm always been pretty fit. And I really wanted to kind of help people like overall just kind of get to a better place, whether it was professionally or if it was personally. So, with that, I went out to, just kind of my network and said, hey, I'm going to start, doing coaching on personal and professional development. If anyone wants to, hop in a case study, I will be willing to work with you for free. So that was about that time for me. And then, I got about 5, 6 people to actually work with me on my case study. So did that for, those few couple of months. And I think I finished up doing all of that probably around the end of November.
So by then, I began to talk to the women and understand what was going on with them. I had these 30 calls over a span of like maybe 2.5 weeks. And then I told one of the women that I spoke to that if she wanted help, that I would like to work with her one on one. Like, I'm like, I just want to get an understanding from what you got going on and see how I can help you. I felt like equipped to do this work because my friends had told me that I do this with them all the time. And even you were like, you're really good at that. Like, you can get to connect with people in that way. And I learned a lot from you being able to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can check that out. What was that like for what was that like for you when you talked to me about seeing something that you felt was a strength of mine that I hadn't really even acknowledged?
Yeah, it's always hard to kind of see the things that people say you're good at when you're actually kind of in your own skin. But that's kind of one of the great things of having a partner and people around you who actually pay attention to the things that you do is, they can point out the things that you don't see and illuminate directions that that are in front of you because they're clearly in front of you and they're not in front of other people. But as you said earlier, it's really hard at times to look at the other options when you're laser focused on at once. So for me, it was kind of like, yeah, why doesn't she do that? Because that's the obvious option of all the options. If she wants to go down this other path, but she's already doing this. She would be happy doing this. She's always done this. It would just be getting paid now.
You didn't say it. You didn't say it like that. And you also didn't say I should be helping millennial women feeling stuck,
No,
overcome
I
their
did. I probably did.
paralysis, and get out of
But
their
you
heads.
were
Like,
helping people
so,
that were in your network, and that was mainly
mhm.
millennials. But we would talk to our different family members. It wouldn't be the same. People would they call us nice assholes. So you have a way to deliver the truth without getting under their skin or feeling like you're
Because I'm not
attacking them.
attacking. That's
Yeah.
why I'm understanding.
Well, in the world where everybody else is attacking, most people believe that's how
Yeah.
it's going down.
And it was, watching you go through your journey. I remember at a point being like, why is he struggling?
Why
Like,
is he not done yet? Why
why
doesn't he
he
have
not done yet?
customers yet? Are you supposed to have customers in June, so I don't have to be worrying about this,
Why
right?
he hasn't secured his coins? Like, he's been working at this since way more than I have been working at this, and I just felt like, you struggling? What? I'm sorry. What's going on? I no comprende. Like, I don't understand.
One
Uh,
woman's struggle is another man's process.
because one thing you have to understand about JP, he just talked about him being a high achiever. He was Gate scholar, like high achiever. Like, we're not talking about like little high achiever. Like,
a little capital A
oh my
achiever.
god, it's an inside joke, but he's a high achiever, sure. But yeah, so I just felt like he should have it already, And I think that's another thing that people don't talk about. But like, I had that subconsciously, I had that expectation of you that you would figure
Nobody
it
has
out.
sympathy for JP.
No one,
So
because you're smart.
nobody.
You can figure it out. You can figure it out. So then I start working with, so at this point, this is November. In November, we still are in securing coins. We're still like figuring it out. But at
Right.
this point, I'm loving the work I'm doing with the women. I'm working with 2 women at this point in exchange for testimonials and just a case study, like me getting really my hands in to see how good am I at this work. Like, I know my girlfriends think I'm great, but like, how is it with other people that I'm not my best friends and whatnot, and like really getting there. And the more I did that work, the more I fell in love with the work. And this stage was a challenging stage for me because Sam is all about minimum viable product, and I'm more about glitz, glamour, and looks great.
And I'm
So I had
right in
to.
line with Sam. I'm like, you don't need that. Don't do that. Quit wasting that time. Go do something
Oh
else.
my God, it was so challenging for me, but I did it. I did the minimum stuff. I was like, nope. And I would tell myself too every time, like, I'm not doing that because I don't need it right now. And that
Yeah,
was
and I always you say, why haven't I figured it out yet? I'm like, why hasn't she understood that she could have clients all day, every day with this 2,000 followers and all the traffic she gets to her website? I'm like, if she would just get these systems in place, she could just press go and be good. So I'm like, I'm waiting for her because she already has the following. So you had the following and the brand, and I'm a systems guy, so I knew the systems on the other side. So it's just a different perspective of
hard.
what we think our lacks are or the areas we need to improve versus what other people kind of already have going for them.
Mhm, mhm. And there are 4 S words that I'm very, very close with. Systems is not, it wasn't one of them at the time. It was surrender, solitude, silence, and simplicity. And it wasn't systems. And at that time, I just didn't really understand that because that's not how I've been programmed. And I think that's one thing that we have to or realize is that we've all been programmed. And you have to realize, you have to think about, is the program that I've been implanted with is still serving me? Do I still need to keep this program?
Well, your
Or do I
4S,
have
that
to
is a
adjust?
system. The 4S, that's a system in itself, right? So you can remember what the 4S's are.
I sure do. My 4S system. And then I start working with the clients and I love what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go out there and start selling this thing. Like, I feel empowered because my clients love me, and they only love me because they're getting results. And I felt like I'm solving a problem here. And working with the clients was really, really helpful because they helped me narrow down my message, and they also helped me take the ambiguity out of that process. And when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of people like to, I know at the beginning, I felt like I want to serve everybody. I don't want to like segment or niche down. I want to give it
Right.
to everyone. I don't want to close
Everybody.
doors.
I
And
want all
I
the
did
money.
nothing. Because I was serving everyone, I was serving no one because everyone is no one. And it was hard for me to niche down. And even before I had one of my mentors, he was like, you need to niche down, you need to niche down. And I was like, I'm niching down as much as I can already. Like, what do you want from me? And I finally understood that at this stage of the game. And by then, I had been working on this for almost 9 years. So I started working with my clients. And in December 5th, I made my first sale.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
December 5th, we made our first coins.
Yeah. Breadwinner. I could kick back and relax now.
Absolutely not. And I was looking at you like, how do I make money from the course that you brought into this house?
And I'm like, of
And you're
course
the
you
Bill
made
Gates
money.
scholar.
Of course you made money first. You already had a lot of this going. You and your friends with all y'all followers. I'm like, if all y'all would just get on that same program, all y'all would be Gucci. Like all y'all. And you
What
got
was that like
20,000
for you?
followers, yo. If I had 20,000 followers, email sent, money generated.
Email distribution. What was that process like for you? Like in that moment, what like we didn't really talk much about it, but like what was it like for you when those coins were finally made?
Probably a little jealous. And it's always a healthy jealousy when anytime I see anybody achieving, even the thing you sent me today, I was like, I want it too. So, it's always,
I sent him, just gotta give people context, babe. They don't know what's going on. I sent them a video of someone we've been following and looking at her journey, and she's made almost $1 million in a month recently. So that's what he's talking about.
right. And I'm like, I want it too. So when it was happening, it was like, okay, I guess the stakes have been raised. So let's go out there and I do was always it's December and I'm still on it. Like the quote unquote vigor, it hasn't died. It's still
Yeah.
there. So I know it's gonna happen eventually. It has to happen if you follow the system and do the steps. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. So I knew that I was getting close. I had just finished my case study, so I needed to go out there and market. This was really the first time I was marketing something that I was going to be like 100% behind and knew that, hey, this is what I wanted to do for a while. And, throughout the case study, I learned a lot and that helped kind of guide me to what I was actually going to do for the actual service. And one of my clients, I helped her with her business and she made, like an additional $40,000 in the 8 weeks that we worked together. So I was like, well, boom, those are the type of results I want to help people get. And that helped me land my first client near the end of December, who got started with me in January.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting hearing you saying that you felt jealousy, even if it's like a healthy jealousy, because my perspective was, how hard can this be? I'm doing it. Why can't he do it? Just so you can talk about perspective, because that's
Yeah.
a big one. We all have perspective and we don't realize that everyone perceives things differently. And that's a word that we use a lot in our house. Like, what is your perspective? What is your perceived perspective? And what is the perceived perspective of somebody else? And a lot of us don't think about that. And when I got my first client, I was like, all right, I could do this. First of all, it doesn't hurt to make money, y'all. Like it just helps. It definitely increases your vigor and your enthusiasm when you're getting results.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, okay, I'm getting results from my clients and they're, people are paying me to do this. What's taking him so long? Because
Well,
one
I
thing
was
we
getting the
haven't
results. I just was getting paid.
Right. Because one thing we
Yeah.
haven't said is like that whole time, your level of enthusiasm and vigor while you were working was at an all-time high compared to what I was doing. Like he was going hard and I was like, okay. Like, and at the time when I got the client, when I switched my niche, I had switched my niche like less than a month after
Right.
less than a month. And then I got the client. So I was like, what is he doing over there that he's been working at this for almost a year and he hasn't materialized anything?
It was not almost a year. It was like 6 months, 7 months.
That's
You
rounded
see where
up
I'm
to a
at
year.
now, close to a year. Well, it's almost a year now. So you see where
Yeah, I
we're
see
at.
where you
So
are now. So that was interesting for me because I don't think I had ever seen you struggle before. And that was the first time I saw you struggle from my perspective. And you were going through your process, but from my perspective, it was the first time I hadn't seen you achieve something quickly that you had set your mind to achieve. That's perhaps the best way I can put it.
yeah, I get it.
And that was interesting. That was interesting to see in the streets. So
Yeah, but you brought the energy into the house, so it's going to pick it up eventually. So later
mhm.
that month we
Yeah,
did, and so since then we've been adding clients each
yeah,
month,
yeah.
and now you started your course.
Yeah,
You've
so the
been recording
course,
it.
let's talk
Yeah.
about that. So the course, I went to Miami to one of my girlfriends. One of my girlfriends was having a bachelor cruise in February, this last, recent February 2019, and he was leaving out of Miami. And I told Pouncil that I was gonna go, to there. And on Valentine's Day, I flew out in the spirit of not doing things traditionally. And we don't celebrate Valentine's Day, so it was not like we were missing out on anything particularly. So that morning, my girlfriend Kelly, she had told me she was going to be in Miami. And I was like, well, I'm just going to change my flight and come a day earlier because Southwest doesn't charge us for changing like a
Mhm.
flight fee. They just charge you the difference in the flight. And there are a lot of flights leaving from Tampa to Miami. So it was like $20, something like that. So I was like, I'll change my flight. So I came in early and I went to Miami in February on Valentine's Day. And I spent about a week. I think I was gone for about a week, right? Like, because I went a day early about a day early. And then I went on the actual cruise and that was like 4 or 5 days, something like that. And then I came back home. And before I left, JP had talked about getting this other course that's like the next level of the consulting accelerator course that we had taken from Sam. And he's like, oh, I want to do this course. So he had already planted like the seed that course was coming. But I thought we were going to discuss it a little bit more before he did it. And then I arrived from Miami and he's like, no, I arrived from Miami and I didn't talk to him the whole time I was gone in Miami. I was gone in the cruise. I said I will not talk to him while I was on the cruise. I will talk to him once I'm back in land. And that was also different for me because I had this thing where I just liked the fact that I had never gone without talking to you. I don't know why I like that. I don't know why I took pride in that.
Like
That's a weird thing to be like prideful
that's
about.
something that yeah, some I've had other relationships when it's like, yeah, I want to talk to you every day. I'm like, but I didn't do anything special today,
Yeah.
type deal. So we for the most part now we do talk, every day.
Yeah.
But
But that was the first time that I was like, I'm actually gonna unplug from you. I'm unplugging from everyone. In the cruise, they had Wi-Fi, and I was like, I don't want it. Like, I don't want the code or anything. I'm good. And I'm like, I don't even want to look at my phone. Like, I am unplugging from everybody. And it was so good to unplug
Mhm,
because I really
mhm.
wanted to be present on the experience with my girlfriend and her friends. And I felt like if I start this game, I won't be able to unplug and I won't be present and I won't be available to have the experience and the lessons I wanted to learn. So I didn't want to do that. And as a result, we had a great time. I learned a lot from being there. I learned a lot from them. And I come back, I hadn't been talking to my husband, and I look at my calendar and there's a meeting on my calendar. And I was like, what is this meeting? Okay. And then I asked him, and he's like, oh, yeah, we have a meeting for, the next level of the program so we could get our questions answered. Come to find out, there were forms that had been already filled out. There was all these things involved.
There are the conversations I had already had back and forth to it was just a formality. We just
Oh
needed
my,
to have this quick conversation so
oh
we
my.
can move on. So yeah, there was no really any asking. It was gonna happen. Whether she wanted it or not, she could participate if she wanted to. If not,
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about us because we are not the type of couple that has like two different buckets of money. We both have one pool of money and we trust each other to do what's best with that money within reason, of course. But
Yeah.
we're not like, oh, you can't get this or you can't get that or whatever, or you need to approve every purchase by me or purchase by that. But we trust each other that we're going to make decisions for that make sense for our marriage and like that we know are in alignment with what's important for us as a couple. So he buys his course or whatever. And then they tell us, okay, well, don't start building the course until you've sold the course. And then 2 days later, I sold the course.
Boom. 2 days. She didn't even have a chance to really. She didn't do any marketing. She didn't do any updating to her website. She just got on the phone with somebody. Was like, "Hey, I got this course," and they were like, "Sign me up." Boom.
No, I went on a podcast
Oh, you
and
on a podcast? Okay.
I talked about the work I did and had this amazing conversation with Monique over at the Brown Vegan podcast. I'm gonna drop the link on that so you can listen to it. She's amazing. And one of the listeners reached out to me and she became one of my clients. and she became the first client of my course. And it's been amazing building that course. I'm currently in like my course is 6 weeks long, and right now I'm still building it. And being in Honduras is a whole new beast building a course, because there are things like that I
like
can't control, like that dog that you hear that I
that.
can't control, and children outside playing. I can't just be like, children, go away. So it's just been a lot. But I think I'm enjoying this journey. I'm enjoying the entrepreneurship journey and building this course. And that's what JP's been talking about. And I think I remember coming back and being like, oh my God, I can do this. I don't have to work like a crazy person to make this happen. But if I worked more, I can really make it happen. And I think that was the first time in a really long time, if not ever, that I've ever felt like that. That I felt like I knew what was best for me. And I knew that because of the actions that I had taken to show me that. I don't know that I felt like that before. So that was the course. How are you doing? Where your course at?
Of course. So right now we got someone signed up to get started on April 8th. So we're going to be off next week. So we're going to a conference, going back home to visit family. So probably won't be recording it, but I'm going to be selling. I'm going to be networking to get more people in it. So really kind of going kind of probably with a little cohort. And, once the conference is over, hopefully I'll have a couple more people. And then, I'm going to go ahead and start getting started to record it myself. So
Mm-hmm.
already got somebody, down with the deposit to get started on the 8th. So just looking for, a few more. But yeah, we both
Awesome.
out here.
Awesome. We both out here. And then I was like, I'm going to go home to see my parents. And when I booked this flight, JP was like, yeah, girl, bye. He was ready for me to leave the house. He's like, yeah, I want you to go. Have a good time. I'm not coming. I don't need to come. Bye. He was short of just packing my own bags and putting me out. Putting me out.
I wasn't packing your bags.
He wasn't packing my bag. He made me unpack my bag, but that's a different story for a different podcast. And then like the last week before I came here, every time he was on the phone with somebody, all I could hear him say is, yeah, the missus is leaving me for a week. And I didn't even think he cared that I was leaving, to be honest with y'all. And suddenly, literally, I heard that every single day with whoever he was talking to on the phone. And he's on the phone a lot because, outreach. So I was like, what's happening here? When did you shift from girl bye to just actually leaving me? I care a little bit.
I don't know.
I
Maybe I
don't
like you a
know.
little bit more. Who knows? I like
That
you
just be
having you
my
around
opinion.
a little bit more. I think I told you, but as we started in the beginning,
Yep.
you were getting on my
Bringing it
nerves
full
less.
circle. Bringing it full circle. I was getting on his nerves. And this is why I was getting on his nerves less. Because I was building my course and I didn't have time for him.
She didn't have time to bunny around and hop around me with what I was doing. And before we got married, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be focused on doing my thing. I don't really care what you do. Just let me have my time to
Mm-hmm.
knock out what I want to do. So, you just picked up that energy along the
Yeah.
way, and look where we're at.
Look where we are at. All that to say that if you want to jump into the journey of entrepreneurship, yes, you could travel anywhere and do your work from anywhere. I am doing it right now. You could be on a beach reading your book. That's what we do when we live in Florida. And you could be making your own schedule, but you're also going to have to be available to change some things and to adjust to those changes and to see yourself and to see your truth. Because when you see yourself and you see your truth, that's really what emboldens you and empowers you to become the person that you are supposed to be, and to unleash your essence and your intuition, so that you can find the joy in the work that you do without feeling like, well, I gotta be here. That's what I would say. What would you say?
I would say you kind of gotta make the choice that you want to do. All like the choice to jump into entrepreneurship is really a choice to get to know everything about yourself, so that you can become the best person that you can be. Because your our businesses are just reflections of the things that we want, the things we aspire to, the things that we want to see to fruition. And there's a phrase as computer programmers use: it's garbage in, garbage out. So, if you're not putting in the right things in your body, if you're not putting the right things in your mind, if you're not putting yourself around the right people, well, the outputs aren't going to be optimal. So, we're really all about getting that mindset right. And that's going to be the key. Because, there are going to be the things, as we know, you don't like doing outreach. I don't like doing outreach. Those are probably
Mhm.
that's probably the biggest thing where, I get headaches from looking at the screen for too long. But we know that that's what has to be done if we want to, spread the word about what we're doing and help more and more people. We actually got to go out there and put the word out.
And that's one thing I had to realize was that I'm helping people. Like the women I work with, they would tell you that their lives have been changed from working with me and from giving themselves permission to see their truth and to begin unpeeling these layers and making room for themselves. And this is the type of work that people don't know that they need the help that I give them. They don't always know that they need this type of help, but they know that they need help and they know they're not happy where they are right now. And I had to realize, like, this is a big freaking deal. Like, people need this help, and when they have this help, they are able to live their lives on their own terms, and they deserve to do that. We deserve to, if you're willing to put in the work, you deserve to live a life where you're getting what you want from life, and life wants to give you what you want. And I don't know if I've always have the level of clarity on how serious this work really is. And now that I do, I feel that when I'm like, I don't feel like doing outreach, I'm like, so you don't feel like helping people? Is that what's going on today? And that has shifted how I think about it, because I always feel like helping people, and I always feel like giving my best to my clients or potential clients or whomever I'm talking to. And it took me a while to understand that. And now that I do, I'm like, how can you not? And if I can, why wouldn't I? And that was a major transition for me mentally.
Exactly. And that mental, we're still continuing to have more and more mental shifts, and it's easy to kind of relapse and to, get back to the not what we want to be the default. But that's why it's so important for us to work at making the new mindset shifts we have, making those our defaults.
All right.
All
I
right.
think we've talked a lot. We shared a
have.
lot with y'all. We let you all up in our business.
I think that's typically what we do with everybody. That's why people tend to let us up in their stuff, because we tend to kind of just lay it all out. But we don't necessarily have anything to hide, and we're both super honest. Sometimes people say to a fault, but we're gonna continue to be us, and that's why we get along.
And that's why I love you, babe.
So well, yeah.
I love you. If y'all have additional questions, then perhaps I can talk to my husband and see if he'll be willing to answer questions with me and allow me to record a conversation. As you know, he doesn't do collaborations.
Right. Thank you for recording our conversation. You may do with it what you like.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your consent in respect of my wife desires or human desires, because that's one thing I would say. You've always been like, you don't get special treatment because you're wife. You're human. You get treated like every other person that's a human. And I've always felt like I should get special treatment because I'm wife. But I'm working through that. What are you reading? Let's give people some tangible resources that they can utilize.
What am I reading?
Like in the last year,
I got books I read in the last week. So
okay, so fine. Let's just do this 2019. Let's talk about 2019.
2019.
Last episode you mentioned the 4 tendencies as one of the tools.
Yeah.
What are you giving the people today?
So Deep Work.
Yes.
I forget who that's by.
Oh, I have it right here because it's by Cal Newport.
So Deep Work, Relentless.
Ooh, yes, that's a good one.
Relentless. So, and then I want to recommend
Relentless is by, sorry, babe, we gotta let sure people know.
Yeah, for sure.
Tim Grover. And I'm gonna drop the links for this. What else? So you got Deep Work, Relentless.
And then there's a book that I read about millennials, so it was less about kind of like business and mindset and more just like data about millennials, how we were raised, how we compare to other generational cohorts. And there's a lot of information that's really useful, particularly for our work with millennials. And that one's called Kids These Days.
Kids These Days. All right. If you are feeling stuck and you're trying to determine which one of those 3 books you need to start with, kick off with Relentless by Tim Grover, I think is his name.
You think so? That's a little, yeah. Let's go there.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you're ready to get your world shaken up, start there. And if that one is too much for your soul, then move on to Deep Work.
So Kids These Days is by, once it decides to come up for me, it's by Malcolm Harris.
So we have 3 books recommended for you. And if those 3 books you feel like Nori and JP, y'all cute for dropping these books, but I'm not reading these books. If these books are too much for you mentally, if you're not ready, because some of these books you need to be ready for, and you
Yeah, the
might,
millennial book isn't too big. That's not. It's not like the other two. Relentless
yeah.
is literally relentless.
Yeah. If you're not into the millennial conversation, then don't. But if you're a millennial, you should check that book out. It's also on my next list. Kids This Day book that JP just mentioned. Relentless is a book that I'm currently reading right now. Like, yeah, this book is amazing. But again, I don't know if 2 years ago I was ready for this book, but I'm ready for this book now. So I want to be sensitive to that, right? Even if you're not ready for Relentless, check it out first. And if not, do check out The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen. We talked about that one in the first part of this conversation. And those would be the ones I would recommend. Because I think for the nature of the work that we've done, those have been the ones that have like really, really for the both of us, I think. There are
Yes, it
some
helped
that
our
have helped
marriage
me, but
too,
those
for
have
sure.
helped us a lot. What advice would you give to someone who is married and their spouse is not really supportive of their business venture?
I would say, but first I'd be like, so what?
You're out of fashion. Why are you letting
No.
that have so much power over you?
But the advice I would give to them is that, not everyone's going to be supportive of everything that you do, and it's because people are scared. When you jump out and do entrepreneurship, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. And if you haven't seen anyone that has been successful, or your past experience with businesses that is risky and that only certain type of people go out and do business, and if your spouse feels like that's not them, and if for whatever reason they don't feel like that's you either, they're obviously going to have some, not obviously, but they're probably going to have some things to say about it, and may not be quote unquote supportive. And I hear that a lot with the millennials that I'm working with, and it's not even just that my wife isn't supportive. It's no one in my family is supportive, no one in my community is there to support me. And a lot of times it just goes back to, just that fear and anxiety. So, my advice to them would be to, sit down and kind of talk through it with your spouse. Really try to understand what is it that why they're apprehensive about it, what are their fears about it, and kind of talk about it so you can really get down to the root of it, as opposed to, just keep saying that, oh, they don't support me. Well, let's figure out why they don't support you. Maybe it was how they were raised. Maybe, their mom or their dad taught them that, you go to school, you get a good job, and you get a job, you work, you go get that good government job, and you work for the next 25, 30 years. And entrepreneurship is risky. Don't try it. Go down this safe route, and this is the only thing that you do. So we all come from our different backgrounds and perspectives. And so, even things that you've brought to me and I've brought to you, you've kind of at first been like, nah, I'm not trying to do that type of stuff, which later on we saw the quote unquote light, but it wasn't something that, happened overnight.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And one thing I learned too is that you don't have to get that everything from your spouse. I know it'd be great if you did, or you think it'll be great if you did, but you also need to look for other ways to get what you need. And that applies to the episode we talked about depression, and it also applies to this episode we're referring more to like the business end of things and how we've been able to operate as what do we call ourselves?
A married couple?
No.
No.
What's the other thing you be saying
The
we are?
incubator,
Our
two person
incubator
two
too. Yeah.
person incubator.
Our
Yeah.
2-person incubator, like there are some things that your spouse might not have to give you. That's just the bottom line. Like people give you what they have. They give you less because they don't have more to give you. So I think be open to looking for that somewhere else. And if you're a Black millennial, you're looking to launch your business, and you don't have someone supporting you, then you want to check out JP's website. I don't know. Talk to him. He does that.
Yeah. If you want to see a case study, you're talking to her, right?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you talk to him about it. If you feel stuck and you want to focus more on getting unstuck in your life, then I can help you do that. But I think understanding that not everyone that you want to give you the things that you want is available to give you those things because they might not have it.
Exactly.
And it's not that they don't want to give it to you or they don't want to support you. They just might not be in a position where they're available to do that, even if you think that they should. People don't have to do anything that you want them to do. It'll be nice, but they don't have to do it.
So it'll always be nice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, babe.
Well,
Any
thank you,
parting
babe, for
words
having me,
for
for
the
your
people?
conversation. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, anything else you want to get off your chest? I get to get a lot of things off my chest on here. This is the platform that I built for them. So
No, you've been gone what, like 2, 3 days now? I think I'm maintaining over here.
you're doing good.
Not looking too bad. Not looking too bad over here.
People concerned if you're like showering or something, and I'm like, he's fine. The man is okay.
Showering.
He's
I
an adult.
went for a run today and everything, so I need
You
to go
went for a run
stretch.
today. Oh,
Yeah, I know, right?
scandalous.
My knees. I've been standing up at the standing desk,
Yeah,
and then went running. My knees were like, where you going?
I
Like
understand.
I got 3 miles, bro. We got a mile. We still got another 2 miles to go. Yeah, I can't be
You did
giving up
5
now.
miles?
No, I did 3.
Oh, okay. I'm like, who you out here? Good for you. Get your
Baby
workout in.
steps. Baby
I
steps.
went to pick up weights today and a yoga mat from the department store. So it's very unlikely I'm going to work out today, but tomorrow I'm going to give it use and I'm just going to not take Sunday off and we'll have to make up for the day that we missed out on. Actually, I'm going to take Sunday off and I'm going to just do 2 workouts on Saturday. That's what I'm going to do because
Nice.
I'm doing
All right.
T25 right now. So
All
I
right.
think that's probably like a makes the most sense. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your rawness and your openness. I've always appreciated your honesty. And speaking of honesty, do you feel like you can be honest with me now?
Oh yeah, of course.
Like
100%.
100% honest
Like
though.
100%. Before it was like 95. But that last 5% was important. So I'm glad we are at this point too.
Yeah,
So, but thank you for recording our conversation.
of course. I think we've made each other by focusing on becoming better people, like kinder to ourselves as individuals, at least from my perspective. I think we've developed a partnership that's much more kinder too, where we are able to respect our needs and cater to them in a way that it supports our unit and not focus on, well, why I gotta do that, instead of just being like, this is what's best for the unit. And that makes us stronger. And it makes me love you even more. So it's cool. Whatever. I
Aw.
oblige.
Ah.
Love you, baby.
All right. Love you too, babe.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Get Unstuck podcast. I know you have endless options you can listen to while driving, working out, riding the train, or cooking your favorite meal. I truly appreciate that you've decided to spend your time with me. I hope today's conversation left you feeling a little less stuck and empowered to take action towards becoming the woman that you want to be. If you found today's episode helpful, please show us some love by leaving us a 5-star or 6-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Google Play. To get a show notes, head to IamHealthyFit.com and make sure you join the mailing list. You'll get access to a free training video to help you overcome your paralysis, get out of your head, and love yourself no matter what, starting today. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find me on Instagram at Jarrad Pouncil. That's NORYPOUNCIL. Hasta